Hello, welcome to the DK and the Hawks show. We have a very special guest today. I'm uh, I'm joined by Calgary Flames color analyst and Fan 960. Here I'm on Fan 960. Peter Loubardias for the Calgary Flames. Thank you very much, Peter, for joining us. And how you doing today?
My pleasure. I am just fine. I am just absolutely fine.
I'm thrilled that you're able to join us today. And I'd like to start off the interview here today, just kind of asking how you got started in this in the business of broadcasting, because it's something I'm very interested in doing maybe in the future. So I just have some questions about that.
Sure. My journey has been a lengthy one. I started at CJSL Radio, Estevan, Saskatchewan, all the way back in the summer of 1984. I graduated from the Western Academy of Broadcasting in Saskatoon, which is my hometown. And that is where this almost 37-year journey began. It has taken me to the greatest places. It's provided the most unbelievable experiences. As I even sit here today, and I've had lots of time and in COVID, and it's kind of one of that spots in my life where more time to reflect. But DK, to put it this way, if you would have told me back in either the late 80s or early 90s that I would have had one iota of the opportunities and jobs and events I've covered in that stretch of time, I would have probably never believed it. So started in Estevan. I was there for 4 years. I wouldn't trade it for a second. It paved the way both professionally and personally for everything that I've been able to do.
Well, that's awesome to hear, starting from Estevan and to where you are today. I got to say that I really enjoyed you as the main announcer on the Flames on Sportsnet West. Not that I don't like Rick Ball or anything that's going on today with the broadcast, but I really did enjoy hearing you. And when you ended up becoming the radio guy, I was just like really thrilled that that was able to happen.
Well, I appreciate that very much. I think Rick is a fantastic broadcaster. I think he's elite. I make no bones about it to this day. I love those 3 years. I love my 11 years at Sportsnet television and all that went with it. I'm a play-by-play guy first, color analyst, I guess, second, but just very, very proud of, I guess, coming through a very, very difficult time back in 2011. And, I've learned so much. I look at the game, not differently, but obviously I have to look at it through a different role and a different lens. And, as a non-player, that can bring about sometimes some challenges when you're in the analyst role. But very proud of it, and very thankful to Kelly Kirsch and the people at Fan 960 for being there at a time and providing an opportunity that I really, really needed at that point of my life and at that point of my career. So just as I try my best, and some days better than others, just try to do the best I can. I have an incredible love affair with sports and an incredible love affair with the game of hockey. And it's by and large, outside of a couple of big bumps along the way, it's, like I said earlier, it's treated me incredibly well.
Yeah, honestly, like when you agreed to do this interview with me, I was so thrilled, and then I was kind of like, oh, well, now I got to figure out what we're going to talk about. So I did some research, and I found one word to describe you and your work, and that's passion. And I think that really translates to the broadcast. And I want to say that honestly, driving home from work and hearing you talking about the game, I could really like feel like I was watching the game. Um, and not every radio guy can do that, like really describe and like you're sitting in front of your TV. So I got to say that you do a fantastic job in that aspect of of the game. And
Well, thank
yeah,
you.
so let, you're welcome. Um, let's move on to my second subject here, and the Calgary Flames season. We can all. I had the Flames as the fourth best team going in this season.
Interesting.
I kind of saw it being um, the three teams that are in, and instead of Montreal, I had Calgary as the fourth seed. And I feel like the reason for their struggles is their matchup versus the Ottawa Senators, which I kind of saw going the other way. Can you kind of talk about why you think they had some struggles versus Ottawa? If it was maybe an overlooking them, or if it just a matchup kind of favored Ottawa in some way.
Well, it's a great question, and needless to say, it's been a very, very regular subject, and will be a regular subject coming up again on Sunday, depending on when this gets shown and is made available. I guess the interesting thing for me is in the summer, or in the fall. I mean, I'm so messed up, like I think everybody else is, but probably
Yeah.
back in December or early January, when we were discussing, the new North Division with the Canadian teams, I remember saying one thing, that I thought the Ottawa Senators were going to play a massive role in one team missing the Stanley Cup playoffs. Now, when I said that, I had no idea who it was going to be, in part. And, as we know, DK, Calgary's not the only team since 2-12-1 that's had trouble with DJ Smith and Ottawa. But what I really thought when I looked at Ottawa's roster and situation is I think DJ is a heck of a coach. Got to know him a little bit in the 2 years that Windsor won the Memorial Cup in 2009, 2010, when I was the national voice of the CHL on Sportsnet. Have always thought very highly of him since those days, and as an assistant under Bob Bugner. And I like a lot of their young players on the roster. And I just thought that the division itself amongst the other teams was going to be incredibly competitive. And so Ottawa on the bingo card, if you will, I thought would be in a situation where you're in such a battle, all these series head to head against some of these other teams, that as hard as you try in sports, sometimes maybe you don't give them their due. And they've just gotten steadily better. And they have put, as you know, a massive wrench in Calgary's hopes and dreams this year. And I think as the year has gone on, those games have become harder and harder for Calgary, because mentally, and the mindset, which I believe in is everything in most things, you started to enter those games as, well, we can't lose to Ottawa. We can't lose to Ottawa. And I think the Flames, after it didn't go so well early, put a lot of pressure on themselves and, frankly, just didn't play well enough. Just have not played well enough in that season series. And at the end of the day, now Montreal's in somewhat of a similar boat against Ottawa. Mm-hmm. But yes, to get back to my original statement, I did. I said it, and it's there for people to go back and listen to. Yeah. I just thought because of Ottawa and their progression and the fact of how competitive I thought the majority of the division would be, that Ottawa was going to bite somebody. And they've bit several. But if you're in Calgary, it sure feels like that wasn't a bite. That was a bit of a buffet for the Senators. years.
Yeah, sure. I totally agree. Like it all depends on how these last games go. I believe Calgary still has a mathematical shot at this point, but I think Montreal would have to lose out and we'd have to win out.
Yep.
Is that correct?
Montreal needs 1 point.
Yeah, because it's like 57 and 47, and best Calgary can do is get to 57 with 5 wins. So
Yeah.
we'll see what happens. Toronto plays Montreal, I think next, and then they got 2 against the Oilers. So the Flames fans are going to be Oiler fans if we get to that point,
Yeah, true.
which is hard to even fathom.
No, that's not always the easiest. Nope.
Yeah. The next question I had for you, there's all these rumors about the Flames kind of tearing it down, and I don't think they should do that. Um, but we've had the same core for the same 4 or 5 years now. Art Giordano is getting older. We got some guys coming up on their last year of their contract, and don't want to run into another Iginla situation where you don't get much for them at the deadline. What would Peter Loubardias do as the general manager of the Flames this summer? Because I think a lot of fans out there are saying to deal Johnny, deal Monahan, deal Giordano, basically anybody that's either over 30 or their contract's ending. And I don't think they should do that. I think you should maybe try to retool. But what would you do as general manager?
Well, I'm not going to completely lay that out for you because here's what I would say, and here's what I answer DK when I get asked this question. Yes, like you, I think we're at a certain point where this core has not helped you deliver what you'd like. But I don't think there needs to be a major overhaul. And then something new happened this year, and that is Daryl Sutter returned. Daryl Sutter has different ideas about how he wants this team to play, who is going to fit for him, who doesn't fit. And I always give this answer, and I'm not trying to duck the question, because the question, I will give you this. Do I think you have to potentially move a core piece or two? Yes, I do. Am I going to say to you unequivocally, I know who exactly I would want that to be, or who? Not necessarily. But I do think what's really important, starting from your ownership to your general manager, your coach, that this season, I believe, has been different. Hard to assess. It hasn't been normal, but I think it's answered some questions. So I don't think a big teardown is required, but an understanding of going forward together, evaluating the whole body of work of your core, what's coming next in your organization, and then really, feeding that part of it. I said probably more before Daryl came along than after, because that's just changed the whole spectrum of everything as far as I can see. But I always felt like with Brad Treliving, he's tried to build a new core underneath the current core. And that can take time for people to be in bigger leadership roles, different situations. And I like, there's some guys I would have a hard time parting with on this team. But I think we're at a spot now where with Daryl, with Brad going forward, you have to decide who can do it, who you think can't do it, and who you want to go forward with. But I don't think this is about a complete teardown, because you have some great pieces on the back end. I think you have an excellent goaltender. In Elias Lindholm, I think you have one of the most complete forwards and center icemen you can can find. Do you need more high-end talent? Yes. Is that easy to come by? No.
No, sir.
And great teams usually get to the point where they're on the same page. They understand the goals. And this team, without being disrespectful, they don't know a lot about winning because they really haven't done any of it. And
yeah, that's
true. And that's not, listen, I've been around these guys for a long time. It's not because they don't care and they don't try and they don't want it to be different. They want it to be different. This has been a miserable year for a lot of guys in the Calgary Flames and as a group as a whole. It's been hard. And it's been hard on everybody, as you know. COVID has taken a bite. Yep. I had it personally. It's affected all of us, whether we want to admit it or not. So I always try to say this. You get to a certain point where you evaluate, you truly evaluate, you get together, and that when you do it right, the lowest of lows can actually allow you to get to better places. And that's where the Flames have given it a good run with this group. They have some good players. They still have some really, really good players. But I think to a certain degree, you need to shake it up and potentially, give the keys to the car in some ways to other people.
Totally agree. I feel like we're on the same page with that topic. So we'll move on to.
It's hard.
Yeah.
It's incredibly hard to win.
Yeah, especially in in this current circumstances too.
Yeah,
it's a lot tougher probably for the guys. I couldn't imagine playing in front of 20,000 and then all of a sudden you're playing in front of nobody. That definitely messed with your psyche.
Yeah, I think that's part of it. But, and I've asked Daryl Sutter about it. Needless to say, had lots and lots of good conversations with Jeff Ward when he was still here about it. Culture and winning kind of breeds winning. And, in a season that I feel and a lot of other people do has been very playoff-esque in nature. You're in a bunch of matchups, right. All the different matchups, the different mini series. Again, there's, as you well know, with some of the high end skill people, whether it's Edmonton, is Toronto, Winnipeg, do the Flames necessarily have some of those kind of high end people? No. Collectively as a group, though, they haven't been good enough, and they haven't won enough of those series. Now they beat Montreal. We don't know where it's going with Vancouver. And again, we've already touched on it for many a minute. What's the one series in many ways that you just couldn't afford to lose that you lost? So give me three of those back even. Give me three.
Mm-hmm.
Where are we at right now? You're in a different spot.
Yeah, you're in a good spot if you win. If you have 4 points,
not perfect, but better.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because I feel Calgary is a much better team than the Canucks this season. I feel like that matchup with the four late.
You know what? I don't know if I'd go. I don't know if I'd quite go that far. I think in Vancouver, and I think this is part of how I feel too. When things are so emotional and people are so disappointed and the outside noise, and I've never experienced anything like it in all my time. The market is very disappointed, and I understand. And in the day and age of social media, noise is loud. And if you don't think they don't hear it, you're kidding yourself. And if you don't think it doesn't impact decisions, you're kidding yourself. And, it happened in Montreal, in Vancouver. I think Vancouver's a good team, but I think they had high expectation. I think they lost a couple of people, i.e. Chris Tanev, and what a year he's had. I think from start to finish, he's been the best Calgary Flame, period, end of story, with Elias Lindholm probably about that far behind.
Yeah, I agree for sure.
But it affected Quinn Hughes. They had high expectation. They had injuries right from the get-go. And some seasons, and this is one of them for teams like Calgary and Vancouver, albeit I think they're different because you could make an argument, you know, Pettersson's been hurt the majority of the year. Like, when people assess, you have to assess all of it. And injuries, circumstance, your opponents, them running into COVID, like, it all matters. It all matters.
Exactly. All right. So the next thing I wanted to discuss with you is the 2 seasons that we're watching between Austin Matthews and Connor McDavid. And Connor McDavid is on pace for almost 150 points in an 82-game season. Do you think this is more of the divisional aspect and how we're not playing against the other teams? If there's less defense maybe in the North Division, or is this just 2 phenomenal seasons that we're seeing before our eyes?
Probably a combination of both. I think that both those 2 gentlemen that you've mentioned, remember, they're still very young people, and they need to grow and mature. And it is incredible. Said this many a time. I've never seen anybody like Connor McDavid in terms of speed and skill, in terms of what he can do at that pace with the puck. And, you know, he has had an incredible, incredible year. And I think on both accounts, where I've seen great growth in both those guys is not just what they do with it, but what they do without it. You have the puck more in the sport of hockey, and it's the hardest thing for offensive players to understand. The more committed you are without it means you're going to get it back. And when you get it back, you have it more. And when you have the type of skill and surroundings that they have, some amazing things happen. You know, take Connor McDavid, and I get it, plus minus isn't everything. But McDavid and Draisaitl, of the top 20 scorers last year in the NHL, if I'm not mistaken, they were of 4 guys who were minus players. Well, that's not the case this year. Not even close to being the case. So Dave Tippett's done a great job. And to Connor's credit and Austin's credit, they're both maturing. They're both getting better in their overall game. They're stronger. They're incredibly gifted. And where I've seen the most growth, and I think potentially both of it comes from Toronto losing to Columbus. And there's no way Edmonton should lose that series to Chicago. No way. But they did. They did in part because Chicago's best people who know how to win and have won and understand it and have done it at the key moments in that series, people like Taves and Kane were better. They were, and don't tell me that Edmonton didn't have as good a surrounding cast. But again, like the Flames season, like for the Oilers, sometimes you have to hit that kind of a spot to go, we got to do it different. And I just, you know, with Matthews and Marner on the other side of the equation, I just see huge improvement on all those guys through maturity, understanding, and a commitment to their overall game. And I commend, even though it's hard to watch, especially on the Edmonton side sometimes, you know, when you're around the Flames and you want the Flames to do well, but you have to commend all those guys. And would it be a little different if you had more variety? Yeah, I do. I don't think it would be quite to this standpoint, but I'm not sure how big the drop off would be either.
yeah, it's like two incredible seasons.
Both, no
McDavid like
question.
150 points. Like this is like 80s Mario Lemieux numbers that he's putting up. Um, and like the hockey is completely different. So I think this performance by McDavid is one of the greatest performances in NHL history.
Greatest regular season performances, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Been
So,
unbelievable
um,
by both guys.
yeah,
Both guys.
and like I'm a Flames fan, but I can appreciate like outstanding hockey by rival teams. So I got no issue with McDavid doing his thing and Matthews in Toronto. So we'll move on to the NHL playoffs. I was just curious, who is your favorite, and maybe a dark horse that you might be going with to hoist the cup this year.
I'm not a big fan of the prediction game. I never have been. I never will be. There's certainly a lot of teams that I really.
Well, it's very hard.
It is very hard, and when you get in the prediction business, it can be thankless because you basically set yourself up for failure.
Yeah,
I'm fascinated. I'm fascinated by it. Needless to say, when I think about a potential series between a Colorado and Vegas, how do you not get excited
yeah,
about that? I think so highly of Rod Brindamore and what they've done in Carolina, but there they are with Florida, who's maybe been not the biggest surprise, but thanks to an incredible coach and great talent and it all coming together, Florida's really found their way. And they've done it for the last however long without Aaron Ekblad, who was, at a Norris type level before he
yeah,
suffered that hellacious, horrendous injury. It's hard to bet against Tampa when you think about, Kucherov probably coming back and
yeah. That's
Stamkos being
incredible.
healthy. That's what's going to go on there is that group of four in the East. Oh my goodness.
Right.
What's going to be
Oh
left?
man,
What's going to be
whoever comes
left?
out of that,
Right. And
be
in the
wild.
division that we watch so closely, in the case of both Edmonton and especially Toronto, I think in the case of Toronto, between inside want and hope and outside want and hope, is anything less than a trip to the NHL semifinals good enough? And yet, even if it's Montreal and Carey Price comes back and as stingy and rotten as the Canadians can be when they've got it going on, there'd be a lot of pressure on the Toronto Maple Leafs. And the Winnipeg Jets, I think the Winnipeg Jets, when healthy and playing well, have as deep a group of forwards as you could find. So I'm not trying to duck your question, but I'm excited in a sense about all of it. And the thing that I've said on the radio, and you didn't ask this, but I'll add it. I think the sad part is it's too bad the Flames, barring a miracle as we speak on this podcast, I'm sad that they're not going to be a part of it, because even without fans, it's a pretty special thing when we watch those four Canadian-based teams and everything else. So not to be involved in that and what it could do for your fan base and viewership and driving new customers, that makes me probably almost as sad as just watching it all unfold and the disappointment of not living up to whatever expectations you may have had for them or may not have had.
Yeah, I agree. It's definitely disappointing for Calgary. Like I did see them as a top four team in that division. Go back to what you were saying about. I think almost the three teams in the North not getting out of the North Division would be a disappointment. Maybe lesser for Winnipeg, but the expectations in Edmonton are huger than they've ever been. And Toronto, they like with the team they've built, the season that they're having. I feel goaltending is going to hold back both those teams. Whoever gets out of the North, I don't see either of them winning the cup or getting to the finals because of goaltending. We'll see. Mike Smith's had a really good year for Edmonton, and Toronto they got like a 3 goalie team going right now. So we'll see who they end up going with. Jack Campbell's had a really good run. We'll see what happens there. My my prediction, I like the Avalanche as a favorite to win, and Minnesota Wild as kind of like an underdog story.
Okay. I don't know if they're an underdog, but Carolina is a team that intrigues me. Again, I don't love their goaltending, and I'm not really a huge proponent of their division. But the two Florida teams colliding.
Yeah, that should be good.
That might set the table a little bit there. But yeah, it's hard to argue with Colorado's talent. But Vegas has a lot of experience and great pieces, and looks like they're going to have potentially even, they had 7,000 in there the other night.
That's in Vegas.
In Vegas, that's
cool.
That's the biggest home ice advantage that I've been around in a long time. So yeah, I love the Minnesota story. I don't think it's time, but I love what they've done.
That's why it's more of an underdog
and
story for me.
I was lucky enough in my career, back in my television days, working in Edmonton in the late 90s, to get to know Bill Guerin and to understand him and follow his career. And I tell you what, I can't say enough good things about what he had. A lot of work to do, and he's done some fabulous work. Fabulous. And so is head coach Dean Evans.
Quickly too.
They've done a great job. They've done a great job.
Yeah. Well, okay, so the next thing I'd like to bring up is I'm sure that you were thrilled by this. Team Canada under 18. It's been a while since they've won a gold in this tournament. It's kind of been the US's tournament, and I think the future of the NHL is very bright with some of these players. Shane Wright, Connor Bedard looks incredible. He's not even 16 yet. What was your thoughts on the tournament? Obviously thrilled that they won. What's your thoughts on the whole tournament, how it went down, and the future of these guys coming up in the next few years?
Well, DK, it's one of my favorite events of the year. Anybody who listens to me on a regular basis knows that, I love the NHL, I love the game, but I love the game at all levels. And make no bones about it, that one of the things I enjoy most is generally trying to recognize and find out from about 14 or 15 who the best players are in my favorite country. And not just my favorite country, but I love international sports, period. End of story, i.e. the choice of the hoodie, or in my home province, bunny hug. So nice.
You got the jersey in the back there.
Yeah, I saw it. It's a beautiful thing. God bless. So I've loved the event. The skill I just watched on display for the last 10 or 11 days blew me away from all the different countries. Now, in the case of Wright and Bedard, maybe the difference is since McDavid, there's been a few years we haven't had from our country, franchise type looking game changing players.
Yeah.
And while those two guys are different and different players, you know, I'm not a huge comparison lover because I think it puts a lot of unfair pressure on the kids. Shane Wright for me has it all. Very Bergeron-like, incredible leader. You know, again, captain of this team is an underage. Does it all. Yeah. You could just see the impact, not only on the ice, but on the bench. There's a reason. So he would have gone number one for me right now, this year in July, if he was available. For Bedard,
sky's the limit.
Wow. Well, you know, he's not, nobody's McDavid when it comes to skating and separation. And I keep thinking about a comparison with Connor after watching him. What he did in the playoff round was like spectacular.
Mm-hmm.
He had 4 points in the preliminary round. He ended up with 14.
Yeah.
So when the games mattered the most, he was at his best and led the way as a double underage. And, you know, whether it was the semifinal against the Swedes, which people think, well, it was 8-1. Well, if you didn't watch, understanding a lot of people don't, but if you did, it was 2-1 after the second period. And he kind of grabbed that one early in the third and said, you guys can beat it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we had the hat trick there, or 5 points in the quarter, and the backhand goal to tie the game against the Russians. How many guys on planet Earth can do that? And he did it coming out of a penalty shot that he didn't like. Came out next shift, game, Canada's down for the first time the whole tournament. And he does that. And he does that. I don't know. I'm still trying to find an NHL player. Might be a little like a right-handed Pat Kane. I'm still trying to kind of decide. But how he shoots it, his offensive instincts, his ability to get things done in tight space, man, that was something else. And, you know, the Michkov kid, who's the December 2004, isn't eligible until, just like Bedard, 2023, 12 goals.
He's 23? Okay, I wasn't sure about that.
He's 2023. You know, that might be kind of a McDavid Eichel kind of thing if you go back. You know, I saw, and I'm an easy sell. I'm an easy sell.
I see Shane Wright and Lambert being 1-2 in 22 as well. Lambert's Finland.
I'm glad you brought that up. Brad Lambert is an unbelievable talent. There's a little Nathan McKinnon in there for me.
Yes.
So smart, fast, can shoot it. Maybe didn't quite live up to my expectations, which were gigantic in this tournament. But yeah, you're right. You can see it. He was great at the World Junior as a 17-year-old. Yeah, I'm with you. There's another kid too for next year by the name of Ivan Miroshnikov, right-handed shooting right winger. He won't fall far out of that top 2 or 3 either, I might add. But you're right. Yeah. The game, this tournament, high skill. You know, our country's group of forwards, maybe as good a group of forwards collectively as I've seen at the event. Maybe the 2003 team that won our first gold medal. Some pretty great names there. But you're right. I mean, here, as someone who loves the game and watches at all levels, each passing year, and I watched a lot of the Canadian kids in particular, couple of years ago in Red Deer at the Canada Winter Games when they were like 15, and in the case of Shane Wright, 14. Like, you could see then that 2003 age group in our country was really special. And what people don't necessarily realize, in the forward ranks in particular, there might have been 3 kids that weren't there from Quebec. And Quebec won the Canada Winter Games gold medal, beating Ontario, Shane Wright, Brendan Othman, and company. So the forwards would have been deeper. And Cole Sillinger, the son of Mike Sillinger, who came down with COVID, Medicine Hat this year played in Sioux Falls in the USHL. I think he's a top 6 guy on that team. So yeah, what a group, and really
Incredible.
exciting for our country in particular. Yep.
I kind of you're asking for comparables. I compare Shane Wright to Jonathan Taves. I like his defense, and he's got that offensive ability too.
Oh, he's got it
Connor
all.
Bedard. Connor Bedard is now, if you could ever compare these two players, he'd be the greatest of all time. So I don't want to compare it, but I like the McDavid speed is there, and like you said, right-handed shot, Patty Kane. I see a lot of Patrick Kane in him too.
Yeah,
If he could ever put it all together.
I don't see the wheels of McDavid. In fact, I wouldn't say that Bedard is a burner by any stretch. Like Patrick Kane, his ability to buy ice and move laterally, not that he has, he's not a bad skater. He's a good skater, and he's only going to get better.
Yeah.
But for me, with there's nobody compares necessarily with the other guy. To me, there's just my own personal opinion. There's way more Patty Kane there for me than there is McDavid.
Yeah, agreed. Okay. So just got a few minutes left here. So I'd like to talk to you about your. I understand that you're a Minnesota Vikings fan. So we on DK and the Hawk show.
This interview was going well. Yes, I am, and I have been since I was 6 years old, which is almost 50 years of. Here's how I'll describe the Minnesota Vikings to you. I don't know if I've ever done this. I've done this on the air. It's been a while since anybody's asked me about the Vikings. The Vikings are like a family member that you love, but you sure as hell don't like them most of the time.
I love that. That's perfect. I'm a Saints fan, so we can talk about the miracle if you want, if that'll make you a little bit happier.
Well, I have a great story.
What you thought of the play, and
I have a great. Do you know what my story is about that?
No, go ahead.
Okay. So the Flames are playing that day in Carolina, and it's the last game before the NHL break. So my wife and I spend the summers in Mississauga, Ontario. So I was flying that night, not back to Calgary, but to Toronto. So I get on the airplane in Raleigh, and as I'm on the airplane, there's a guy behind me with his phone going. And the Vikings, as you know, because you're a Saints fan, have blown the big lead. They've blown it. And now I'm like, it's over. So my flight path, it should have been, for sure it should have. My flight path is Raleigh, Washington, D.C., Toronto. So I am basically like this in my seat the whole way I'm half mad at the donkey behind me because he's ruined it, and I'm kind of blaming him because I knew it was tightening up, and all I can hear from back there is, oh my God, the Saints have done this, and they blocked the punt, and they've done this and done that. So anyway, I'm absolutely despondent going to Washington. I won't look at my phone. I refuse. Because it's been bad luck. So the plane stops, and the same guy behind me goes, the Vikings have won. And I turn around on this jammed airplane, and I go,
what are you talking about?
What? Yes. But what I thought had happened at that point, because I didn't know the details, is at that point I thought they'd given up the lead, drove down the field to get a field goal, and won.
Mm-hmm.
I had no idea. So as a lifetime fan who has devoted so much time and energy, I'm on an airplane when arguably the greatest single Viking play of all time happens. Not where I wanted to be.
No.
I don't get a lot of those kind of moments with purple. And I'm on a bloody airplane when one of the greatest moments happens.
Yeah.
So that's my miracle, not so miracle story.
Yeah, it's a crazy play. It's all bad defense in my opinion on that one.
Yeah, it wasn't good.
Don't let the ball go over your head.
Nope.
No, I do believe it was a 2-point game at the time, so I think they were more concerned on maybe keeping the guy in bounds and keeping him from getting in range. So too much stuff. There was a rookie free safety, Marcus Williams for the Saints back there.
Goal number 43. Yep.
Yeah, he's turned into a pretty good player
since that day. He's a good player.
Just franchise tagged him, so
yeah, he's pretty good.
Yeah. So, guess we'll see what happens this year with football, and I'll definitely have you back on if Vikings get into the big game or something like that. But
yeah, don't hold your breath. I know I'm not.
I want to thank you again.
They have a good run once every 10 years. I can almost put it in the calendar. And then they break my heart in the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, I guess. If number 12 leaves Green Bay, then you guys might have a better shot in that division. So we'll see. We'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I want to say thanks again for coming on. I appreciate you answering my message and talking to me about doing this and coming on. And it's we're very appreciative of you talking with us today. And like I said, you do a fantastic job of what you do, and good luck, and thanks very much. Hope the Flames can make it interesting down the line here, but not holding my breath on that.
No, well, it's almost to the off season. I think most people around the group, and we'll see what the off season brings. Thanks for having me, DK, and wish you guys nothing but success. And I know it's been a tough year for a lot of people in a lot of different ways. And so stay safe. Thanks for having me. And wherever this road takes you, I hope it takes you to a fun and exciting place.
Appreciate that. Thank you. And everyone follow Lou on Twitter, and follow us as well. I'll be tweeting this broadcast out hopefully later today, and you guys can take a look. All right. Thank you very much.